let's talk about the last week in the WWE. Today's subject, the main subject, is going to be what I've been kind of alluding to for the past few weeks, that we need to talk about Triple H's bad booking for the women in the WWE. But before that, I would like to go over the positives of the last week, and that, of course, still remains the top story, which is anything Bloodline or Bloodline adjacent. On the last week's SmackDown, we had Roman Reigns looking for Jey Uso because of him walking out at the end of the Royal Rumble. So I like that we still have that story thread kind of still in the air. Everybody's speculating the obvious, that Jey Uso will cost Sami Zayn at Elimination Chamber. That still does seem like the obvious, but there still could be a curveball in this story. But either way, I do like that we still have that story thread up in the air. Jey Uso being a question mark. Roman Reigns mad at Jimmy that he can't find his own brother. Also even upset with Solo because of everything that's been happening. But Roman Reigns has to calm down after that and go out and talk about Sami Zayn, who caused all of this for his family. And he wants Sami Zayn at Elimination Chamber because it's going to be in Montreal. We had Sami Zayn attack Roman Reigns during that, which I thought was nice. Sami Zayn catching Roman with a spear was a nice touch. But Roman is very upset with Sami, wants to hurt Sami in front of his family in Canada. So we will be getting the match we all speculated at Elimination Chamber in Canada, which should be a hot crowd for Sami Zayn. I'm sure we're going to have some more good heat on Roman Reigns after that event. And then a couple nights ago on Raw, they also tried to set up the WrestleMania match, likely between Cody and Roman Reigns, by having the Heyman and Cody Rhodes segment. Both of these two great storytellers on the mic. A lot of the story continues to be about Dusty, and Heyman did a really good job being so emotional during this segment, because Cody's always emotional during his segments. Sometimes it's a little overboard, honestly. But Heyman being emotional here, but then delivering the last line that Roman Reigns was the son Dusty always wanted was great. I still don't think the Cody story has as many layers as the Bloodline story, obviously, because the Bloodline story has been going on for 2.5 years. And also because Cody Rhodes' injury kind of hindered his own story. I still don't like it that he just returns, says he wants the title because Dusty never got it, gets injured, and now wins the Rumble. I still will say, like last week, I know I had some people in the comments saying Roman's boring, he needs to drop the titles, Cody's the only one that can do it. I said in the comments, I don't know if Jey Uso's the one to defeat Roman Reigns, the whole Bloodline story comes completely full circle. Some people sleeping on that possibility that Roman defeats both Sami and Cody, only to eventually possibly lose to Jey, I think would actually make the Bloodline story even better than it already has been, because it literally comes full circle. So I do think that is a possibility, and I do still think Cody losing at WrestleMania makes his story mean more, makes his story more layered going forward. But even if Cody does win, it's an okay enough story for me. I mean, he is probably one of the only two people, the other being Sami, and then there's also the possibility of Jey, but that needs to also be built up more too. So yeah, everybody talking Sami or Cody, who's the right one to dethrone Roman? Some people upset that the focus was on Cody here on Raw, but Sami is on SmackDown, Cody is on Raw. It's a way to tell two good stories. I know there's been a lot of speculation that the fans are going to turn on Cody like they did in AEW, like they did at the WrestleMania where they turned on Batista for Daniel Bryan. I don't think that's going to happen. at least not yet. I can easily see it being sooner rather than later. I could easily see the fans turning on Cody before the end of the year if his character stays the way it is now. It's not the type of character that stays over with the wrestling audience for long. The main thing being is just how much hoopla there always is surrounding him, all the fireworks. It's an easy person to turn on in the future, but I don't think it would be anytime soon, although wrestling audiences have surprised me in the past. But yes, the main stories on Raw and SmackDown continue to be told very well where the Bloodline and Bloodline adjacent stories are concerned. Some of the mid-card still needs a lot of work, in my opinion. I don't think Edge and Beth Phoenix versus the Judgment Day is hitting like it could be. That's kind of because this whole story has been going on for a year, and it's not as tight as, say, the Bloodline story. It's kind of more of a story that's kind of been going in circles. They also continue to just have their matches to see who's going to be in the Elimination Chamber matches for the U.S. title and for Bianca's number one contender at WrestleMania. That's a lot of kind of throwaway television for me. It's kind of lazy booking all of these qualifying matches. It's just to waste time on TV. And where the women's booking is concerned, which is the main thing I wanted to talk about today, we have to start being honest. That is, as great as the Bloodline story is, and how Triple H did help continue to build and breathe a new life into that story with Sami Zayn, Triple H has done an amazing job with that story. But he's failed in two aspects. He's had a lot of his guys from NXT return to the main roster, and very few of them, if not any, I don't know if any of them have truly gotten over. Whether it's them or the booking, he struggled to get his guys that he had returned to the roster over. And a lot of those were women, but also the women's roster in general since Triple H has taken over has not been good at all. I don't know if he's not putting the time into it, putting the ideas into it, but because it doesn't seem like he is. It's very much giving Tony Khan energy when it comes to booking the women in AEW. For years and years, Tony Khan has rightfully gotten a lot of slack that he doesn't put the time or the effort into the women's division. And that's been proven over and over in AEW. I don't need to go over that right now. Triple H is kind of giving the same energy. He's not putting the time or the effort into the women's division. And I don't know if anyone right now, I don't think any woman, you can argue Rhea Ripley, but we'll get to that in a second. I don't think any woman on the WWE roster has any momentum. Charlotte Flair returns as a face, but then, which is already bad. I've talked about for weeks how I think she's an awkward baby face. But then she's feuding with Sonya Deville, who nobody believes has any chance against Charlotte Flair. So the story is not even that. Nobody cares about it. Nobody cared about the Charlotte Flair Sonya Deville story, especially when you have Sonya go on Raw for Raw's 30th and she just loses to Bianca Belair. So why would anybody care when she then gets a shot at Charlotte Flair's title on SmackDown? Very strange booking. That doesn't make any sense to me. And so Rhea's going to go on SmackDown and feud again with Charlotte Flair, I guess because there's supposed to be a story there, because there is a history where she challenged Charlotte before when she was in NXT and she lost. So I guess this is a way for Rhea to now go over Charlotte and I guess get one back at her. But I don't think the story is going to have as much momentum as I think Triple H thinks it will. Because A, Charlotte Flair's an awkward face, and Rhea Ripley is great as a character. I wish she would stay in character more often than she does. Sometimes she breaks character a lot, in my opinion, and I think it's because she can feel a little awkward on the mic. I think sometimes she doesn't have the confidence on the mic when it's live in the ring. When it's backstage, Rhea Ripley's great. When it's recording some fun video with Dominic for social media, Rhea Ripley's great. You put her on a mic live in the ring, she struggles. But hopefully that story can figure it out, because hopefully it needs to. Over on Raw, when Bayley first returned with the damage control, the booking made them have no momentum. Part of that was immediately putting Bayley in a feud with Bianca Belair, where Bianca wasn't going to lose the title, and she shouldn't have ever lost the title to Bayley, in my opinion. But because that was Bayley's main feud and only feud coming back, Bayley just lost consistently. And then Dakota Kai and Io Sky also, they win the women's tag titles only to lose them in the middle of that feud too to Asuka and Alexa Bliss. And sure, they won them back a couple of weeks later. But I felt that booking was odd too. It was like an immediate momentum killer for the entire group. So the booking out of Triple H for that was strange too. It never got the heat that group needed to get. They finally got some heat a few weeks ago at Raw 30th where Becky Lynch is concerned. But Becky was always going to win that feud with Bayley, and probably should have won that feud with Bayley. She finally gets the cage match, and now they're setting it up where Becky's probably going to tag with Lita. And maybe the rumors Trish Stratus, since it's in Canada. So it's Becky and the Vets versus Damage Control. But of course they have to go to the Vets because nobody on the main roster has momentum. A lot of people complain on the men's roster when veterans return and they immediately are at the forefront. You can't really complain in this regard with the women because Triple H truly hasn't gotten anyone over outside of arguably Rhea. And then where Bianca herself is concerned, she had some good booking when she kept defeating Bayley. She was putting on good matches. But then since Survivor Series, her feud with Alexa Bliss was kind of awkward. Alexa Bliss's story could have been way better where Bray Wyatt and Uncle Howdy are concerned. But they half-assed that one. And like I talked about on my power ranking video, if anybody watched that, there's a small little company in Colorado doing the Alexa Bliss story better than the WWE is doing. Looking at some of the women in this Women's Elimination Chamber match, I don't see a lot of good possibilities for a feud with Bianca. I think all of the best possibilities are also currently baby faces, that being Asuka and Liv Morgan. I think would be the more interesting matchup for Bianca Belair. Having two faces go against each other could work. I would prefer they turn Asuka more villainous if that's the case. They give her the kind of makeup from back when she was in Japan, and that of course makes the IWC happy. But it's been 2 weeks since the Royal Rumble, and Asuka has no new characterizations to her character, just face paint. The other possibilities, Carmella returns, but we've seen Bianca destroy Carmella many times. Of course, I feel like one of Triple H's favorites is Raquel Rodriguez. That would be a disaster, I think, if that's the match to lead up to WrestleMania. Rodriguez versus Belair, I don't think has any legs as two baby faces. Anyway, just wanted to sum this up. I think Triple H is just as bad booking women as Tony Khan. An argument could be made for worse, honestly. And sure, you can make some arguments that Vince McMahon wasn't that great with women over the past few years either with the booking, but I would kind of disagree. At least from SummerSlam 2021 to WrestleMania last year, we had the good Becky and Bianca feud. It started rough, but by the time WrestleMania came around, it was one of the best stories, and they did have the best match at last year's WrestleMania, in my opinion. So Triple H dropping the ball with the women. I wish he would give it more focus and better ideas, because sure, we can talk about how great the main event scene is for WWE right now thanks to the Bloodline story, but why are they not putting just as much effort into the mid-card, just as much effort into the women's division? They're showing it's possible to have good stories again in wrestling with the Bloodline, but you have to be willing to put the effort with the rest of the card to make your TV shows better overall. It can't just be we're waiting to the main event for it to get interesting all the time. And then the rest of the show's either boring or just bad.